Right. The poem that we are going to discuss today is called Poem for Joseph. It is again written by Robin S. Ngangom. So I'll give you three three related major themes which you need to ponder upon, look out for. The first one is identity or identity formation. The second one is ethnic violence. And the third one is, of course, related to the second one, which is ethno-nationalism. Because of this, nationalism based upon one's ethnicity, you have this ethnic violence. And because of this ethnicity, you have this identity and identity formation and issues related to identity. In this poem, you'll get to hear the voice of our character Joseph, and also, of course, the voice of the poet Robin S. Ngangom. So let's read this and let's try to understand what is the poem all about. Now, this is the first stanza, and it reads something like this. It is never too late to come home, but I need a homeland where I can recognize myself. So the first line is given in double inverted comma, and this is a universal feeling. It is a universal statement. If you have left home or run away from home for any reason whatsoever, it is not too late to come back home. You can always come back home. I mean, you'll be ultimately going back to your own house, your own people, your own family. So it is never too late. But in order to go back, you need something else. And what is that? You need a homeland. Now, from this universal statement to a very localized sort of a feeling, the idea of homeland is all products of identity formation, ethnicity, etc., etc., etc. If you study northeast part of India, this particular region, then you'll understand why many communities are demanding for homelands, their own homelands. But it seems as if they don't belong to that particular state or that particular political setup. They are demanding homelands. So as the Northeast is so diverse, having more than 400 different ethnic groups, it is perhaps really difficult to fathom the amount of ethnic classes and ethnic tensions that happens in this region. So the first stanza is, of course, the voice of the character Joseph, and Joseph is saying that people say that it is never led to to come home, but for me, I need a homeland where I can recognize myself. I need to have a homeland which is recognized, which is in my name, which where my rights would be protected, where my ancient tribal rights would be respected, where my identity would be recognized, and stuff like that. So not just that, even if it is not as big as a homeland, I just need a spot on a map or even a tree or a stone to make a spot I could return to, like a fishing animal, even when there is nothing to return for. So what the point is saying is that since we human beings are territorial animals, by territorial animal, I mean, there are some animals, territorial animals, who would piece here and there and mark the territory. Once you mark the territory, other animals will not enter that territory. So we human beings are like that. So I need to have something which I can call my own. Even a tree would do, even a stone would do, even a map. Even if the physical land, physical geography doesn't exist, even if it is on a map, just point this is your land, then I'm more than happy to go back. But this is not just for animals. This is also for human beings to want to go back, to want to come home. So that's what Joseph is saying in the first stanza. Now here, this is a bit confusing because this sounds like Joseph's voice as well as the poet's voice. Why I why I said that this is a bit confusing is for the fact that the poet also has left his native land and has left has lived somewhere. So it may sound like the poet's voice, but in fact, this is the character's voice. And he says, although it's true that in my native land, children have crawled out of burrows, they had cows under hard beds, long after the grown-ups had fled, and the roofs came apart like charred heads. So the poet is saying that it is true that in my native land, which is Manipur, children hide, children children dig trenches, holes underneath the beds, hide themselves there, crawl up. Why? Why? Because the grown-ups are fighting outside. There is bloodshed, there is violence, there is chaos happening outside. So remember, in a war, in a battle, children and the women suffer the most. So they hide while the grown-ups are fighting outside. And while fighting, someone has to win. And if they belong to the smaller group, and if the bigger group wins the war, wins the battle, then roofs come apart, houses are destroyed like charred heads. This is a metaphor for homelessness. It's a metaphor for burned down houses, and also there is a sense of being put outdoors. So being outdoors, which example should I give? Right, uh, in Toni Morrison's The Bluest Eye, you have this character, Piccola, her brother Sammy, mother Pauline, and the father, Golly Love, being outdoors. So meaning, why they are outdoors? Because Golly Love had burnt down the house, meaning they don't have any place to go back to. Being outside is different from being outdoors. So it is something like that. So they have no other place to go or to hide or to settle. So this is a very tricky situation for these smaller tribes. The next stanza is, of course, the voice of the poet, and he says, "You said." Now, the poet is referring to Joseph, our character here, and he's saying, "You said you didn't regret how ethnic cleansers had palmed our newly built home of on a people well on their trail back to pure blood." You said that how the ethnic cleansers, how those killers had Venice houses and homes, burned down everything, almost like magicians who would disappear, elephants, audiences, and other objects. So that's what he means by palmed. So, uh, like magicians who would disappear, these objects, these ethnic cleansers had also, made your newly built home disappear. Not just yours, for the entire community, for the entire tribe, your people. Why why they do that? That's because they are on the trail back to pure blood, in the lookout for pure blood. If I have to give you a sense of what is happening here, is uh, then then uh, for the cookies, the British had two different types of categories: the new cookies and the old cookies. Remember, I talked about in the beginning. I talked about identity and identity formation. Cookie identity was forming, reforming, and forming again. So you have some tribes which were there, like I'm not going to name the tribes. And nowadays, you get to see that those tribes belong to the Nagas. So there is this alignment and realignment of ethnic communities, and putting those ethnic communities under the umbrella term Kuki and Naga. So this identity formation do take place, and because of this, there are many classes, there are many tensions in Manipur. So so that's what he means by their trail back to pure blood. And and he further adds that you didn't mind leaving behind objects of desire you had collected over 25 years. Since the past 25 years, this guy, Joseph, had collected so many things like TV, fridge, washing machine, whatever is needed in order to, run a house. And he left everything behind. Everything is burned down. And with your wife and your children, the, Joseph, his wife, and his children had to come to Imphal. That is the capital of Manipur. And the poet describes Imphal as in a dog eat dog city, where things are really, really hard. Things are perhaps harder than what you would find in the hills. Why? Because anything can happen in Imphal. Mm, uh, there can be bomb blasts anytime. There can be a bandh or dharna or any of that sort, which would disrupt peace and tranquility of the state. And things can really go bonkers. I mean, you can get stuck anywhere. Anyone can stop you. So that's the reason why, since life is so hard, he calls his own city Dog Eat Dog City. And where who populates this city? A Kelas tribe, which he calls his own. And what is this Kelas tribe? Maitais. Remember, there are three communities in Manipur: Kukis, Nagas, and Maitais. And since resources are really, really limited, there's a scarcity of resources. Everyone is fighting for whatever is available, every available resource. That's the reason why he calls his own tribe callous as the other tribes. The final stanza: only the photographs you mourn, the beloved sepia of one family tree. The old and tattered, really brown photographs, which depict and show that you once had a family, which is the proof of your family tree, is the only thing you mourn. That's the only thing you regret. Let's say this photograph is there in an album, a family album, and he couldn't save that family album in the fire. He couldn't even run along with that family album. Why this is becoming problematic, or why it is becoming, a concern for the poet, is because he continues, since you are the reason why your father lived, but who will believe now that you lived at all? So since you have lost the family photograph, so this family photograph, this family tree, or this all photographs, let's consider it as an image, or rather a metaphor for, uh, you know, uh, the generations, or the disruption, in the generations. Remember, this sort of, not being able to save this photograph has put a wall between him and his father, between him and his children. The disruption has taken place. The generational gap has taken place. The crevice has been developed. He cannot possibly tell his children that, look, your grandfather looks like this, or for that matter, your grandmother looks like this. This is my brother, these are your uncles. He cannot say that. He doesn't have any proof that he ever lived. But remember, parents live for their children. Now, if we extend this metaphor further, we understand that the 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 disruption is not only in the family, the disruption is in the entire blood, the ethnic group, the community. I told you that this sense of belonging and not belonging to a particular community is was happening during that time. I'm talking about the 90s, 80s, and 90s. All right. So the real culprit is, of course, how the British categorized these different tribes. That is there. Let's not go there. But in the 80s and the 90s, where formation and reformation of these, tribes was taking place, so many were kicked out, many were taken in. So since there were two parties, they were fighting for, these small communities. To give you an example, like, for example, there is one community which has just 200, people or 50 households. So cookies would be fighting for this particular small community, and Nagas would also be fighting for this small community. So that this particular small group can enter into the pan Naga group or pan cookie group. So that would be disrupted, and disruption has taken place. There is this, you know, uh, there is this question of who we are. What is our identity? Why the identity is changing from time to time. So all these things are there, but frankly speaking from the perspective of the speaker himself, the victim of this ethnic class, Mr. Joseph, we can well understand that since his father lived for him, he also wants to live for his children. But would his children take him or take his words on face value that he ever lived? Because he cannot even give them the entire family tree. The family tree is important. Your bloodline is important. Your community is important. And that's how the poem ends. Before I conclude, I would like to narrate a story, and that is about a man called Joseph. Let's say this poem is biographical in nature. Once upon a time, there was this person called Joseph. He got married in the late 80s. He had a beautiful wife and wonderful children. He constructed a house somewhere in one district, one hill district. Then ethnic violence happened in 1992, 93. His house was burnt. He left everything and ran away from that particular place. He started living in Imphal. He got he got lectureship in a college. He started teaching. There was this semblance of life going on smoothly. Then he bought a piece of land in Imphal city, which is the capital, and he started constructing his house. When he started constructing his house, I mean, in between there has been 30 years. 2023 came, specifically 3rd May of 2023. Another ethnic violence broke out in Imphal, in Manipur. This time, not between Nagas and Kukis, but between the Meiteis and Kukis. Since he belongs to the Kuki community, he doesn't feel safe building that house and living there. I don't know where he is right now. He's His children are displaced, his entire family is displaced, not once, twice, in 1992, 93, and now in 2023. Have you ever wondered what must be going through in his mind right now? The trauma that he has carried, the generational trauma that he will be passing down to his children and grandchildren. Frankly speaking, I don't know what to make of whatever is happening in Manipur. And this violence is basically senseless violence. That's it. All right. That's the poem all about. If you have anything to, ask, or if you want me to explain further, if you couldn't get any term or any idea, if things are murky and not clear enough, you can always reach out to me. Then that's it for today. Thank you so much.